Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for a transfer deadline day special, as well as a bit of a Chelsea versus Nottingham Forest preview, because as days align, we have to do both at once. But yeah, it's been a bit of a crazy deadline day already, as crazy as it goes without us actually signing anybody, which is kind of weird. Boys, when was the last time we didn't sign anyone on deadline day? Like, that feels strange. I mean, we did apparently make this weird bid for the Club Bruges player, who I've never heard of, but Alex Goldberg seems to be the biggest fan in the world. But I'm not sure if that's happening. I feel like ever since that we apparently made a bid, there's been no update, so I don't feel like that's happening. But who knows? But there's plenty of stuff in terms of Chelsea to talk about. Conor Gallagher, will he go to Tottenham? Please, for the love of God, not let that happen. I cannot handle that. Like, no, absolutely no chance. Ian Maatsen, Chelsea agree a deal. He says no. Is he going? Is he staying? What's happening? I have no idea. Multiple youngsters going out on loan. Hudson-Odoi joining Nottingham Forest on a permanent deal. Chalobah staying. All sorts of madness that we need to discuss. I'll start with you, Dums. First of all, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it very much. I know you've just told me you've been at work all day, so you haven't been able to keep up with all the transfer news of the day. So we'll keep you up to date and then get your thoughts when we talk about them. But in general, it does feel weird to not be signing anyone on deadline day, even if we obviously prefer it, because usually it's only been panic loan deals.
Yeah, bro. Big up the chat as well. Big up Laurenz, man. It's been a while since I've been on here. Sub to Lawrence's channel, like the video as well. But yeah, it is kind of weird us not because in the past we've seen where you want to try, especially last season, what we signed.
Do you want to try turning off your camera? Because then maybe sometimes the connection is then better. And now try speaking now.
Yeah, can you hear me better now? Is that better?
Yeah, I think it's better.
Yellow. Is that better?
It's better, but I think you're delayed. So I think what we should do now is leave the call, join back in without camera, and then I think we should be fine, if that's cool.
Yeah, calm. All
right. Yeah, I'll take it to you in the meantime. Same question, really. Deadline day feels a bit weird without us signing anybody, doesn't it? But at the same time, still a lot going on. I'm not sure how much you've been able to keep up with everything.
And first of all, it's a big change from what we've been used to as a club for a little while. And I don't know about you, but I feel a little bit more relieved about that, because then at least you're not wondering what the hell's our squad actually going to look like. The fact that we got this Cole Palmer deal already done and dusted, and we're not waiting to see whether we get him or not. Like, literally, I went to bed last night knowing full well by the time I wake up, he'll be announced. And that is basically our final sort of purchase for the season. I think for me, this has probably been one of our best windows. I know people are going to look at it differently based on, some of the departures that are potentially happening and stuff. But honestly, this probably feels like the most stable we've been from that perspective, in terms of knowing what the hell we're actually doing. Whether that obviously is our 10 out of 10 sort of window and all of that stuff, or whatever the rating people want to give, that might be a whole different conversation altogether. But it's just refreshing to see. I'm just kind of glad that we're not having to deal with not being sure about what signings we're still trying to get. January, I remember Enzo was the one we were stressing about. I'm like, I don't want to be back there anymore for any sort of signings at this point. So if we're going to make signings as a club, just like a proper club should be, in my opinion, we should be getting the deals done ASAP.
I agree. I could not agree with that more. It was very good news that Cole Palmer was announced in the morning. Now, obviously, we were streaming yesterday and we had the here we go. So, we knew it was happening, right? We were kind of just waiting for the announcement, but, nothing crazy going on there. I mean, look at Paulinho trying to go to Bayern Munich. That was, they hadn't had a here we go yet, but it was as close as possible. And somehow it still collapsed. So here we are. Look, I would say, I guess we might as well start with this. Where is it now? Where has it gone? There it is. Might as well start with that. And I'll get your thoughts on it initially, Dums. First of all, seeing if your connection works. But yeah, Cole Palmer has joined Chelsea, £40 million plus 5 million in add-ons. Although, what was his face? Matt Law, I feel like, didn't someone say it's 40 million plus 2.5 million add-ons? Whatever it may be in the end, right? Still, what do you make of that one? Obviously, spoke about that one yesterday already, but in general, happy with that signing? Is it a signing that you think only happened because of the injuries? Because I'm not sure. If Nkunku is fit, if Chukwuemeka is fit, do we even make this signing? Do we sign someone different, or do we not sign anyone at all? I don't know. But if they weren't injured, I'm not sure this signing would have happened. But still, I don't hate it. What about you, though, mate?
Yeah, it was a weird one because I actually saw this news on the way to to the game actually against Wimbledon, where it was all sort of happening around that time, just before kickoff and stuff. But I find it a strange one, to be honest, because I know a lot of Chelsea journalists in the past few days have been saying we're in for like a mystery attacker, basically, and like I did not expect it to be Cole Palmer because he's almost through and through Man City, isn't he? So yeah, it kind of surprised me, but at the same time, kind of optimistic in a way where we've gone for a specific profile of player, and that sort of goes back to I think what Mo was slightly touching on as soon as I sort of joined back, where we're much more organized in this transfer window compared to say the last previous windows where we're getting business done on the last day. And it's just not healthy for the squad and good for the manager. But yeah, I mean, I think I said on our chat that I think anything below 30 million would have been good. Over 30 million, I think would have been a little bit overpriced. But then again, the way the structure is of the payment and stuff, I'm actually not too bothered by it that much. And it's an interesting one because he can play in the 10 and he can play out wide as well. I can't move him. We've obviously been linked with those kind of players, like Elise, for example, being the main one. And then obviously with our sort of wide players leaving, for example, like Hudson-Odoi, obviously he's gone now. Hakim Ziyech is gone as well. We're kind of looking for someone to play on that side / in the number 10 role. So yeah, I think it's more of a wait and see in terms of Cole Palmer. I don't think he'll play a lot of game for us. Like, expect him to play the game against Brighton, the Carabao Cup. I expect him to sort of like turn up in those kind of games where we sort of need him for the knockout games, especially. But I think with the team playing at the moment, I don't think he gets into our team at the moment. I'm not sure. That might be debatable because Sterling, Jackson have already sort of made their cases for starting, and obviously that left-hand side is still a bit. Well, we don't know if Chilwell's going to play there long term or if it will be Mudryk or whoever. But yeah, I find it interesting that we've actually gone for him. And maybe if Chukwuemeka didn't get injured, maybe we wouldn't have seen him. Maybe we would have gone for someone else that maybe could us. But yeah, I mean, yeah, let's just see how it goes, to be honest, with Cole Palmer.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a weird one. Like, I know not everybody is fully on board with it. I mean, we've spoken about that in the group chat already. I personally disagree that on the price with you, because I'm like, well, he's a City player. He's English. You know, you don't get City players that are English for under 40, 45 million, I don't think.
Yes, and like realistically, like obviously it was going to be a lot because obviously English tax and stuff, but just generally, I don't think he's sort of
in terms of how good he is. You don't think he's worth more than 30,
that's in terms of that, yeah.
I hear you on that. But then I guess it's always like, you know, with how the market has developed, and I'll be perfectly honest, Chelsea are part of a big reason for how the market has developed. Who's worth what they're worth nowadays? Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, Olise we could have got for 35 million, but that was a release clause. Outside of that, Palace would probably ask 60, 70. I don't know what his new release clause is, but they have a new release clause now. It was rumored, 65 million now? So, like, they nearly doubled it. Yeah, it's weird, though, because you're touching it there. He's like Manchester or City through and through because he's been there since the academy. I genuinely can't remember Chelsea ever having a player with a Mancunian accent. I'm not sure if that's just me, but I cannot remember that ever being the case before. I mean, probably well back in the past that I'm not aware of, but in terms of since I've been following, since kind of like the early 2000s, I don't remember someone from Manchester playing for Chelsea. So I guess that's something interesting. I mean, Lee makes an interesting point here. He says, am I right to assume that City sold Palmer due to ramifications of financial fair play? I don't know. I feel like they haven't. I mean, they've obviously spent a lot, but have they spent that much that they need it so badly? I don't know. I'll be perfectly honest with you, mate. But it
doesn't
would
the homegrown talent thing come into play for us as well, and for City, where we sort of have to have like a certain amount of homegrown players or something like that?
No, of course, that counts for them as well. But obviously, as it is with us, like letting go of Lewis Hall, potentially Ian Maatsen, and obviously Mount and stuff, and all these others, Hudson-Odoi now. These homegrown, these academy players, when you sell them, they are pure profit on the books. And that's obviously what Cole Palmer is for Man City. So that's why I think they were so quick to like say yes to this. Well, so quick, debate that, obviously. But yeah, I mean, Mo, you were here when we discussed him initially, I think. You, me, and Pice, I think it was. Am I making that up now? Was it in the chat? Whatever it may be. But you weren't that sold on him. And you were explaining it due to the fact that your brother is a City fan. So you saw some of Palmer in the City Academy. You saw some of Palmer in playing for the City first team. And you weren't fully sold on it. Or you weren't like wowed by him.
Yeah.
I assume you stand by that, obviously, but is not being wowed by him, does that mean he still can't be a good player for us? Or how do you see his move now that it's happened at Chelsea going?
I see. This is the thing, right? I'm not here going to say to people like I know this kid inside out. It's not. I've had limited amount of time, but I have watched him in academy and I've watched him in the first team based on obviously the limited amount of minutes he's gone at Man City. And when I look at the amount that we're paying for the player, I can't help but feel like with extra amount added on top that they can't go get someone else that is a bit more proven, a bit more experienced, and can offer a lot more guarantees, in my opinion, which is what I was looking for. That's what I felt also Pochettino was kind of hammering on about the whole time he was in preseason, and even when the season kicked off, it was about experience. So when we've ended up at the conclusion of this player, it's fully surprised me. I don't really know how to feel about it. I'm not someone to write players off. I'm willing to give the kid a chance. I think there are aspects of his game that is quite impressive. I think he's very good at taking players on, and he has a very good, decent shot on him. But what I don't know about is how raw he is. And at the end of the day, what I kind of thought about is look at the amount of players we've already got that we've got to develop. This is now another player on top of that we're going to have to get the best out of. And that's where my worry lies. Are we giving Poch too many players that he now has to develop and it's going to be his responsibility on top of what is expected at Chelsea, which is to compete and win trophies? That's where my issues lie. It doesn't mean that I don't like the kid. I think at the end of the day, time will tell whether he proves himself to be worth that fee and whether he proves to be what some people are saying. I do think some people definitely jumped the gun. And honestly, I had to just state my opinion because people were telling me things like he's better than Sancho, he's better than Rafinha, he's better than Olise, Eze. Like, and I'm like, what are we doing, guys? Like, why? Because he plays for Man City Football Club. We're just going to jump the gun and suddenly put things on this kid because Chelsea Football Club is linked with him. Because 5 minutes ago, when we weren't linked with him, nobody was speaking to me about Cole Palmer. So it's, I don't know, man. I'd rather just be honest and just say how I feel about the play in that moment. On most occasions, I'm usually very positive. On this occasion, I feel very neutral about the situation. I don't know if this was the best that we could have gotten for our money.
It's interesting, isn't it? Obviously, a few people in the chat, even though I think Rashi might be a United fan, just judging by the name, saying we should have gone for like a more experienced player. And in general, I obviously agree with that. It's probably all of us that agree with that. The problem is most of us Chelsea fans have by now come to the realization and to the acceptance that our owners aren't going to buy, our directors aren't going to buy someone experienced. That's just not going to happen. So, okay. So then that limits me to the options within talented young players, right? Within a certain budget, because Palmer isn't coming in to be necessarily a regular starter. Now, I slightly disagree with Damesh that in terms of saying earlier that he won't get that many games. I think while Carney and Nkunku are injured, I think he will get game time.
Yeah.
And then it's just a question of how he does in that time period. Does he still get game time after or not? Or how much of it, obviously. But I still think in terms of the price bracket that we were operating in, like 40 to 50 million, let's say, right, in the grand price bracket of that. After Olise, with that release clause, was kind of not an option anymore. I don't think there was that many much better players that are young and talented, which is the only type of players we go for, available. I know Aaron in our group chat was, until he heard Rory Johnson. Is it Johnson? What's his surname?
Brennan Johnson.
No,
Brennan
Rory.
Johnson.
What's his surname? Jennings, not Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Talking about Brendan Johnson.
I know you're talking about. Yeah.
Brendan Johnson. Yeah, there you go. That he raised Brendan Johnson. Now Aaron doesn't anymore. But I think Palmer is quite a bit better than Brendan Johnson. Now, have I seen a lot of both? Absolutely not. But, and I know this is maybe simplifying things a little bit too much, and I get what you're saying, Mo, in terms of, are we just rating him because he comes from City? No, but also a little bit yes. Because if he weren't good enough at all, Pep Guardiola would have never included him into the first team. And they would have just gotten rid of him instead of him breaking into the first team. And he wouldn't have been with them for, 2 seasons without just letting him go, right? What is the tweet? Oh, very good. Finally, some positive news I'm seeing here. I'll get that up in a second because we might as well talk about that afterwards. But thank you, Idrissa, by the way. Do always put that in the chat, especially while Pice isn't here because he's doing other things. Put Pice tweets, Fabrizio tweets, put it in the chat so I can get them up. But yeah, like I say, if you are bad, does Pep Guardiola include you in the first team? If you are bad, does Pep Guardiola give you at least some minutes? I don't think so. But like I say, I haven't seen enough of him, so I'll just see what he does at Chelsea. But at the same time, I'm like, the directors, the recruitment team, other than with Diego Moreira, and he came on a free, they haven't really let us down much. So from that perspective, I'm like, well, let's see what he does, I suppose. Let's see what he does. And I guess on that note, we might as well get into the Conor Gallagher conversation, because there's been a few interesting bits and bobs of rumors around here. There was talk that, or not even talk, there was reports from Matt Law and also Nizar Kinsella that, what's their face? Spurs made a verbal offer of 40 million. Nizar said 35 million. Matt Law said. Matt Law said that is 10 million under our valuation. So again, make of that what you will. But now, one step in between. Then we had the report from the Secret Scout, which I'm going to get up now. Bloody hell, I have so many tweets up. It takes me a second to get the right one. From the Secret Scout, again, people will say, "Oh, it's not a great source, is it?" But he's got a lot of things right this summer, so let's see. But he said Tottenham are confident of signing Conor Gallagher. But thankfully, and I mean the title and the thumbnail says, "Do not sell Gallagher to Tottenham." In my opinion, do not sell Gallagher to anybody. But now we have the update from David Ornstein. I am not aware of Tottenham going through with the move for Conor Gallagher. What I find interesting is that no one has reported anything in terms of does Gallagher want that move or not, which I found a bit strange that no one said a word about that. Because I just can't imagine that he would have. Like, just look at the smile on the guy's face on Wednesday night in his post-match interview when asked about being captain on the night. Does that man look like he wants to play for Tottenham? Sure, it doesn't for me. But yeah, then also to top things off, Mauricio Pochettino in today's press conference was very clear that he wants Gallagher to stay. Now, he wasn't very clear in that he was sure that he would stay, but he was very clear in the press conference that he hopes that he will stay. And if the manager publicly says, I hope a player stays, to even contemplate selling them, it's like, that just shows a whole mess of a structure again to me. And again, it doesn't surprise me that people like Christopher Vivell just was like, no, actually, I'm packing my bags, I'm going, because this is a whole mess here. And yes, we do some good things, and we've done some very good things this summer, but we've also done a lot of messy things. And in my opinion, this is one of them. But thankfully, it seems like Spurs are not going to go through with this, apparently and potentially, also because of a few things that like happened with other clubs, if that makes sense. Let me bring this up now. I think it was Nizar Kinsella that tweeted this earlier. I'll bring this up in a second, and then I'll get your boys' thoughts on this as well. Let me bring it up here. Obviously, João Palhinha was supposed to go to Bayern Munich. Fulham never really wanted to let him go to Bayern Munich, but if they got a good replacement, they would have been happy to do so. One of their potential replacements was apparently Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, obviously from Tottenham. And if he had gone to Fulham, then Palhinha would have gone to Bayern, and then Spurs might have wanted another midfielder, and then they might have gone for Gallagher. So now, because Palhinha didn't go to Bayern, Højbjerg couldn't have gone to Fulham, even though he also rejected a move to Atletico Madrid. Now it seems like Gallagher's staying, so I'm happy about that. But like I say, I'd still want to keep in mind that our ownership were like, yeah, we'll sell him for a certain price, even though the manager said in a press conference today, I hope he stays. And that to me is mind-boggling. I don't know what you guys think about that, but to me, that is mind-boggling. Mo, where do you stand on all this? Like I say, he was captain the other day. He started all 4 games under Pochettino so far. Like, I know we have injuries, but like, why would you sell anyone that started all 4 games? Because the injured players didn't just come back yesterday. They're still injured. So like, Gallagher is still going to continue starting pretty much every game until at least Carney is back. And Gallagher was also starting when Carney was still fit. So, do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, Lavia maybe changes things, but who knows when Poch thinks he's fit? Might be next year, for all I know. Right? So, at that point, are you happy that it seems like Gallagher is staying well? Or what did you make of the whole, debacle?
And I'm on the other scale, bro. I can't lie to you. And people are not going to like my opinion on this situation just because I think his performances definitely have warranted him with a lot of credit. And credit where credit is due, I think he's He's established himself under Poch very well, and he's improved on game by game to the point that people are singing his praises. And I'm all for that. If a player is doing well and doing what they're supposed to, give them their credit. I think with that being said, however, I do feel like when I thought about the clear out, Gallagher was one of the players that I thought over the long term that he wouldn't be at Chelsea Football Club.
Oh, bro, sorry
Hence
to
why
interrupt you, but I completely agree. Before this summer transfer window started, Conor Gallagher was literally very first of my list of players to sell in terms of ability in comparison to what he was rumored to be bringing us in terms of transfer fee. But because we sold everybody else first, I'm like, well, no, because I didn't want to sell Mount. I didn't want to sell Loftus-Cheek. Yeah, sure. Then Gallagher is top of the list. But after Mount and Loftus-Cheek and Hudson-Odoi and all of the, well, I never wanted to keep Hudson.
But we've cleared out like a lot of Cobham,
I want to keep some of the Cobham players here. I don't just want to have a bunch of 19-year-olds that we signed in the last 6 months. Like, where's any sort of basis for a team coming from is my problem. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, I'm not saying Gallagher being here and Gallagher not being here is the complete decisive factor in this. I'm aware of it, but like he's played well. He has shown improvement. So I feel like he just deserves to be given at least another season to see if that improvement can develop or not, because we could just sell him next year if we need to. There was no need to sell him right now. So
I mean, in one of the GCs that I'm in, one of the Chelsea GCs I'm in, that's the war that we ended up having. And it was about when is the right opportunity to sell Conor Gallagher. So it wasn't that we were all saying long-term as we see him at the club. It was more so about considering all the circumstances that's happened at the club. Conor Gallagher should be a player we consider to actually remain at the club because, one, he's being used by Poch, he's wanted by Poch, and also they believe that the value that we're currently getting, we can probably get even more than that for the player. Personally, I sit on the side of maybe we're being a little bit optimistic because things are going very well right now. But if he eventually does end up on the bench, for me, the value of the player does not actually stick to where it's supposed to. I also believe that when you have high amount of interest from different clubs that aren't necessarily that haven't necessarily got solutions themselves just yet, you're able to ask for a higher price. However, by next summer, those very clubs that we think might want this player might no longer be in that position where they need that type of profile. Hence why, for me, the opportunity for Conor Gallagher has always been, if the right price with the right sort of club comes through, we do need to sell him, because I understand where our current circumstances are. I still feel like I want to get the highest possible value for the player, and I remain very doubtful whether we can keep and maintain that value over the course of the season, where in next summer window we can be in a position where we can at least get 50 million for him. If we do, I'm still happy with the situation and I'm happy for him to get given that opportunity. But right now, as things currently stand, the way I kind of looked at it is, if someone put 50 million on the table, it'd be very difficult for me to say no to that. I'll definitely be on the camp of saying we can definitely get rid of him.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because and I see some of the points you make absolutely as fair. My counterpoint would be, well, look at how much he's already improved. Since Poch turned up. So I'm like, there's also a chance that if that keeps on happening, we could also sell him for 60 million in a year's time. You know, that is like, I have to judge by what I've seen recently, and the improvement recently has been significant. You also got to remember how bad Gallagher was when we had that £45 million offer from Everton last January. How bad he was then. It's arguably ridiculous to only get offered less than that, or 50 million now. Because also you got to consider it's happened to us countless times. When you're late in the transfer window, deadline day, you have to pay extra. You're not talking normal value anymore, because if Gallagher is gone, who on earth plays in our midfield, bro? You have Enzo and Caicedo. I get that. You're right. I get what you're saying in terms of get the money in, but if you're so desperate for money, instead of having to sell Gallagher, which seems like it's not happening now anyway, thankfully, but if that is the case, then just sign 2 less Brazilians that are 12. Do you know what I mean? There's your money back. It's a pretty simple fix here. It's not like someone in the chat said here, Klopp wants to keep Salah. That does not mean Liverpool should 100% reject that 150 million offer if that so happens to come in or whatever. But 2 very different scenarios here. First of all, Mo Salah is 31 years old, or 30, whatever he is, not like Gallagher. Number 2, Liverpool, 150 million changes a lot of things. The only reason why we could potentially need the money for Gallagher is because we spent some of it unnecessarily. So that is a very different scenario all the same again. And also, one thing I would put on top of that, there is, like I just explained in terms of my counterpoint to Mo, there is a chance we sell Gallagher for more in a year's time. There is no
Yeah,
chance
I
Liverpool
can't rule it
sell him
out.
for
I
any
just
more than they
feel
could now.
doubtful. Yeah.
No, I understand that there's no guarantee to it. Absolutely not.
Mm.
But there never is for anything in football. There's also no guarantee that any of the players that we've signed in the last 12 months that are sub 20 will be any good, right? And still we signed them. So, like, that's kind of how it goes. But there you go. I mean, if they turn up with a 60 million offer, then I would be like, I'd understand why you'd kind of have to accept it. But I just don't think this close to the deadline day, whether it's yesterday or today, if even 50 million, I don't think it would have sufficed. Like, I just don't think so, man. Like, it's like, why, especially to Spurs, like, why should we help a rival for top 4, top 5? I also disagree with that when potentially having given Cucurella to United. The same with Gallagher to Spurs. Why should we help these lot? Spurs have always refused to sell any player to us. Then it's not about value of our players to me anymore. It's about, like, are we morons and mugs, and we help other clubs as much as they want, but every time we want something, they fleece us from top to bottom. They absolutely refuse to deal with us in any shape or form in Tottenham. And, like, no, why should I help them? Absolutely not. And I just don't think, like, if Gallagher was really bad so far, I'm like, yeah, get rid of him, just get rid of him. But he's not been bad, so why would I then help Spurs out? Just seems counterintuitive.
I just think sometimes when a player's value is at its peak, which at the moment, that's what I'm currently believing. Like, based on what I've seen of Gallagher, this is the most peak his value will be to us and maybe even to the people that are interested. Hence why, for me, I'm like, I am not going to say to people, I don't want to sell Gallagher, because I can see where there are deficiencies in his game where the people that we currently don't have available, if they were available, they'd be ahead of him. That's how I feel about the player. I give him his credit. I give him his due, because performance-wise, he's definitely shocked me. I did not expect this level of improvement and this level of consistency in 4 games where I'm like, oh my God, you've actually stood out. With that being said, however, you have to look at it also in the perspective of what these business guys behind the scenes are doing as well. They have made a lot of investment into Chelsea. With that, sometimes sacrifices come, like Gallagher, like Maatsen. Sometimes we will not like these sacrifices, because you ask me about Maatsen right now, I would say to you, I am extremely unhappy to hear that Maatsen is a player we are considering to sell, because I don't feel confident about Cucurella and Chilwell in the long term, and I'd love to see this kid be given a chance after a good loan spell and a good preseason. But circumstances are not allowing us to actually explore this. You then add in the fact that apparently, according to people, he's rejecting the contract being offered to him. Hence why we're willing to actually negotiate and do all of this madness. Then it kind of puts you in a bit of a sticky situation as a fan, because you're like, oh my God, like, I want the ideal scenario for what's best for our club. But sometimes there's some points where you have to take compromises. And I feel like with Gallagher, it's a compromise I'm willing to deal with.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, Johnny says he's 23 years old, improving game by game, loved by Poch. Again, Poch said he hopes he stays. I think that should be put into account as well, or taken into account as well. Loves the club, always gives it his all, can play multiple positions, top player will play a key role for us this season. I mean, the key role, we'll have to wait and see how things develop, obviously. But when I see this comment here by Mitch, who says, what if Gallagher ruptures Achilles? Yeah, but what if Enzo ruptures Achilles? Then we shouldn't have spent 105 million on him. What if Caicedo ruptures Achilles? Then we shouldn't have spent 100. Like, what if Gallagher plays every game and scores 15 goals this season? Then we're going to sell him for 150 million. You know what I mean? Like, what if? Like, what if what? Like, that is. Then you get into all sorts of madness from that perspective. I mean, Doms, just to finish off on Gallagher here, after me and Mo going back and forth a few times, has that changed at all? Your standpoint on it? Like, what do you think?
I think for me, one of the players that I really wanted gone towards sort of the start of this transfer window was in fact Conor Gallagher. But as we both said, like past 4 or 5 games, like he's been like fair play to him. He's really stepped it up. But at the end of the day, we have to see this for 38 games. I mean, like obviously he's not going to play every single game, but you know what I mean. Where in terms of the season, where he can keep out the likes of Nkunku, Chukwuemeka as well when they come out from injury. That's the sort of level of performances we need to expect from Gallagher, where if these guys come back, then he has to be keeping out the team from playing well. But then again, like getting 60 million for him, like all of us will be biting off our hands off with that. So it's a really sticky one with Gallagher, where At the moment, he's playing well. Like I get what you mean, Laurenz, but I don't say him now because of the injuries, especially to obviously Carney and also Nkunku, and then literally it
I
will
mean,
only
we
be
literally
Caicedo.
signed Cole Palmer for that reason. So why would you sell someone? Do you know what I mean?
That's true. That's true as well. I mean, obviously we signed Cole Palmer and stuff as well, but then again, once all these players return, will Gallagher still be in the team? We don't know. But then again, will Carney still be in the team? We don't know that as well. So I think it's more of a situation where we have to assess towards the end of the season and then see how Gallagher does. And then if he's a little bit improved compared to last season, and let's just say Spurs come back again and offer, let's just say 70 million, then I'm pretty sure all of us can't say no to that. I mean,
I still don't want to sell him to Spurs. I'll be perfectly honest with you, bro. But yeah, I get your point.
But then again, like this thing about selling players to rival clubs is so common these days now. Like,
yeah, but they don't sell to us though.
That is true. But then again, like we've seen with the example like Mountain Habits, for example, like we've been selling to them.
Yeah,
and
no. With the other rivals, it happens. But Spurs, Daniel Levy has always refused to sell to us. So until he shows signs,
that's true. I mean, it doesn't have to be Spurs. I'm just giving Spurs. I'm just giving Spurs as an example because they're the only sort of team that are in for him. But let's just say, like, for example, Crystal Palace come back in for him again, like towards the end of the season, and if they've had a good season, then if they offer 67 million, like we can't say no to that at the end of the season. But I think the key thing is, I think the key point I'm making is once these sort of players like Carney and Nkunku come back, Gallagher has to be performing to the level he is right now, and he has to be keeping out the team. If he's just being a passenger in games like he was last season, then what was the point in sort of keeping him now? We should have just sold him. So yeah.
Well, I mean, the only offers we've got so far was 35, 40 million. Our demands were never met, I guess. And like we touched on, unlike with Maatsen, where we found out, okay, well, the club agreed a deal with Burnley, but the player said no, so far at least. We don't know whether Gallagher wouldn't have said no to Spurs anyway. Like I said, he was captain and he was over the moon for being captain of Chelsea Football Club on Wednesday night. Does he want to go to Tottenham?
I think all of us would be over the moon to be captain of Chelsea Football Club, man.
Exactly. And would you want to play for Tottenham? I wouldn't. Do you know what I mean?
No, I love that, man.
See? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Like, the one thing I'll add to it, like, I understand in terms of when they're back, is he good enough? Is he going to play? No, probably not. But you can't just have starters because then you have a squad of 13 players and then you're not going to do nothing. And in my opinion, a player like Gallagher is the ideal type of squad player, especially when he's in the form he's in right now. Then you can bring him in and have absolutely no worries about what he does. But you know Gallagher isn't going to be the one bitching and moaning if he's on the bench. And you know when given a chance, he's going to be useful. He has apparently now also learned to play in the double pivot. So even say we play Enzo and Caicedo together or Caicedo and Lavia together, right? You want to make it a bit more attacking from the bench. If you're drawing a game, losing a game, you bring on Gallagher. You don't need to play him as a 10. You can play him as a more attacking option from a deeper role. Which, do we have another one like that? No. Because we have Caicedo, we have Lavia. Yeah, Enzo, okay, but Enzo's going to start every game anyway. So he's not going to be the guy to come off the bench to help change the game. Ugo Chukwu isn't going to be the guy to bring more offensive movements from midfield either. So, like, yeah. But anyway, let's not get too hung up on it for too long. I do want to bring up something just quickly because I fear good old Pice might be crying his eyes out right now because João Felix is going to Barcelona.
Oh, wow.
we got the here we go for loan deal with no buy option. So, yeah. Interesting. But at the end of the day, I just brought it up because, well, Pies will cry. But yeah, it is what it is. I do want to, let's get a few smaller ones, smaller topics out of the way. We've had a few loans go through today as well. Mason Burstow, of course, started up front against Wimbledon on Wednesday, has now completed a season-long loan into the Championship to Sunderland. Apparently, initially, we were expecting him to go out on loan in League One, but because he's impressed both Poch and apparently also other clubs in pre-season and stuff, he's now got himself a Championship loan, which is fantastic. Apparently, even AC Milan were interested, which I don't really understand because they have about 5 strikers now. They have Giroud, they have Okafor, they have... Who else do they have?
Jovic.
I mean, Origi is left again, but... Sorry?
Luka Jovic. They've just signed him on loan from Fiorentina as well, yeah.
There you go. So even more. So I don't really understand how an AC Milan interest came about, but apparently it did. So fair enough. But yeah, in general, judging by what I've seen from him at Chelsea, he's clearly not ready to be in the squad for us yet. So I think a championship loan is actually ideal. Sunderland is a big club. I hope he plays for them regularly. I hope they have a good season. And yeah, I don't really have much to say about it except that I'm happy he got a good loan, and I would class it as a good loan. Mo, would you agree? Is this a good loan for you?
Yeah, I think he needs definitely good game time, and I think the championship, wherever he was going to get from, I think the lowest I would have definitely allowed him to go is championship. Sunderland seems to be a team that seems to be doing the right type of investment, and I don't know if they go back to the championship this season or the season prior, but like they seem to be building a good side there, and I think the main thing with him as a player is I want him to get physically more better, and I want his link up in certain areas of his game to really improve. And he played against Wimbledon, and honestly speaking, I felt like I didn't even see him on the pitch for however minutes he was on the pitch. And I think that was for me like pretty much nail on the coffin of like he has to go out on loan. He needs that minutes, and he needs to go establish himself somewhere. I think when we signed him, he was actually playing first team for Charlton Athletic and as well. So this will definitely do him really a world of good if he can get consistent minutes and come back a stronger player by next season. And we'll see where that goes, whether that's another loan, whether that's him giving a chance at Chelsea. We don't know. More than likely, he'll probably end up on a higher loan rather than and end up at Chelsea. But hey, you never know.
Yeah, but there you go. Dams, you were thinking Sunderland a good loan for Burstow?
Yeah, I think the championship's a decent level for him. I thought against Wimbledon, as Mo said, I thought he was invisible against them, and yeah, that sort of just clarified things for me in terms of my stance on Burstow. Yeah, it needs the loan. I mean, Sunderland are I think they're 16th or 17th in the championship right now. Obviously, it's still very early days because the championship can change literally within a week. So yeah, let's hope for his sake that he can potentially win the Golden Boot. In the championship for his sake only.
There you go. And there's the confirmation. Obviously, the report from Nizar saying Mason Burstow had interest from AC Milan and Werder Bremen, who are in the Bundesliga, not in the second division in Germany, but wanted to stay in England on loan at Sunderland to earn a homegrown status. He has impressed Pochettino on tour and could get greater Chelsea chances in the future. I mean, earning that homegrown status, I guess, is intelligent from his point of view, but still interesting, depending on what AC Milan and Werder Bremen would have offered him. Still interesting to go to Sunderland over those two. But, I'm sure he knows best. And in general, like I say, a championship loan doesn't sound too bad, even if, like Dom's just told us, Sunderland aren't exactly doing that great so far. But we've also completed another loan today. Let me just find the correct tweet. Like I said, I have about 1,500 ready here, so I need a bit more. Sorry. There it is. Basha Humphries, another one that played on Wednesday night, has agreed to join Swansea on loan. Honestly, if we played this cup game next week, we barely would have had a squad. Like we would have literally had to play the whole first team because Humphries now gone. Bloody Burstow now gone. Who the flip would have played had they left earlier? But
bro,
yeah,
all those Brazilians would have played, man.
Yeah, exactly. Swansea's alternate championship, right?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are.
So another championship loan. Obviously, last season he spent the second half of the season at Paderborn, I think it was, in the second Bundesliga. Now he gets a loan to the championship. I like him. I think he's very good. Whenever I've seen him play, he's never really done anything wrong. So, I hope the loan goes well for him. And similar question and probably similar answers. Good loan in your eyes, Doms? I don't know where Swansea are in the championship, but championship. So
yeah, I mean, the thing is with the championship, bro, anyone can come up and anyone can go down. That's how crazy it is. But yeah, I thought Humphries was I thought he performed quite well against Wimbledon. Bearing in mind it is only Wimbledon, but I thought he played quite well, especially moving from sort of that right back position to centre back. I thought he did quite well in both positions. But yeah, I mean, for him as well, let's hope that he has a successful loan at Swansea and. Yeah, hopefully he can do well there. That's all I have to really say on Humphries, to be honest.
No, exactly. Mo, similar thoughts on that loan as well?
Yeah, man, I'm happy for the kid. I honestly, I'd kind of forgotten he was still there. I thought he'd been sent out on loan until I saw him in the lineup for the Wimbledon game. And I think the right call was definitely a loan, man. He had an impressive preseason, had an impressive loan last season in the Bundesliga. And I would have liked to have seen something of that kind of level again, if I'm honest with you. But if this is what we can get based on the last minute decision, then it is what it is. Hopefully he proves himself to be worthwhile, and we'll see what happens from there.
There you go. There you go. We'll talk about a few other outgoings that are confirmed already without talking about the biggest stories just yet. Callum Hudson-Odoi has now officially joined, let me bring this one up, Nottingham Forest on a permanent move for 5 million, although there's also some talk that it was 3 million plus 2 million add-ons. But we do have a significant sell-on clause, which I guess makes sense, which is probably also why the fee is as low as it is, because we wanted a significant percentage on a sell-on clause. I don't know. It's a real shame with Callum. I honestly, when he got that loan move to Leverkusen last summer, I thought this could be a bit of a resurgence, like the Hudson-Odoi resurgence could start with that loan to Leverkusen, because, I mean, at least us as Chelsea fans, we think, well, the Bundesliga is literally a piece of piss. Turns out for Callum Hudson-Odoi it wasn't. I'm not sure if that had anything to do with Leverkusen specifically. Obviously, they sacked the manager very early into the season, replaced him by Xabi Alonso. Xabi Alonso used him at the beginning, but then very soon just stopped using him permanently, which also makes sense. I mean, they're now potential Bundesliga champion candidates. Obviously, Bayern Munich being the big favourites, but Leipzig, Dortmund, and Leverkusen have looked strong so far this season, and also last season since Xabi Alonso turned up. But it's still kind of crazy that we didn't get more than 5 million for Callum Hudson-Odoi. When you think back to January, was it? Or was it summer of 2019 when we apparently Bayern wanted him on loan with an option of 75 million euros or pounds? Obviously, I firmly believe they would have never taken that option. But hey, it was still there. So it's crazy to let him go for that now. But I don't know. I've had my issues with Callum because I feel like he's had some fans that were like almost a bit too much of a stan for him sometimes. I never really, I'll be perfectly honest, I never really forgave him for handing in a transfer request at 17, 2 days before the transfer market shut in January that year. I'm like, you're 17. Know your place. You're now at Forest. See what you got. Do you know what I mean? Karma is a bitch. But at the same time, I also feel bad for him because, like, he's in his age group. He was, as far as I'm aware, the most talented player in this country. And now he's playing at Forest and went there for £5 million. It's crazy. But yeah, all I can say to him, well, thank you for the services that he has given us. He scored some good goals for us, gave us some happy moments, especially when he was really young before his injury. Then obviously the injury kind of ruined everything. I mean, if we did know what happens in alternate realities, it would be so interesting what career Callum Hudson-Odoi could have had or would have had without that injury. I mean, we'll never know, but it would be really, really intriguing to know. But yeah, good luck at Forest. I don't think he'll be involved tomorrow, probably, but good luck at Forest, other than when you play us, and hopefully you manage to take some points off our rivals. But at the end of the day, I'm not particularly upset that he's left. I mean, he couldn't even get a game for Leverkusen, let's be honest now. Dams, where do you stand on this? Sad that Hudson-Odoi is leaving? Shocked by the price? Like, thoughts on all of it?
Not many people are going to like this. I'm happy he's gone, to be honest with you. I never rated this guy. Genuinely, even pre-injury. Like, I just thought he was so overhyped, man. I can't lie. Like, I know he obviously had that injury, but even before then, like, what big game did he ever win for us when he played? Apart from a few Europa League teams, like, what did he actually do for us? He genuinely said, like, chat to let me know.
Goal against Juve when we beat Juve 4-0, but otherwise,
bro, that was all Ruben. That was a tapping, bro. Even I could have scored that.
Hey, it's true,
genuinely,
but you know,
like,
someone had to put it over the line.
Like, when Bayern offered that deal, we should have just took it and run. To be honest with you, it's one of them where I like personally, I never rated him. I mean, obviously, some people might disagree and stuff. That's fair enough, but yeah, and like you said, he couldn't get into Leverkusen's team, and that's the perfect sort of league where you want to build confidence, especially give sort of like Pochettino an idea or an example of why he's good, but he didn't prove anything, to be honest. And yeah, I'm glad he's gone, to be honest. And yeah, we could just move on.
Yeah, fair play. Mo, similar thoughts to Dams, a bit like me, who's a bit more nice to Dams, but certainly not as far as someone like Pisces, who obviously was a huge fan and absolutely loved Callum. Yeah, I'm not in that camp, but where do you sit?
I feel sorry for the guy, man.
Yeah, no,
and I think,
I
yes,
mean, obviously
the
injury is bad. Like, yeah, so sorry, but obviously the injury, like, I do feel sorry for him with regards to injury, because you don't want any of our players to get that kind of injury. But yeah, sorry about that, Karen.
That's all good, bro. And Yeah, I'm definitely not as harsh as you, brother. And yes, I was a fan of Hudson-Odoi, and from when he was in academy days. And luckily, I got into our youth academy like when our first team just was very much like a depressing time. I thought, yo, let me just watch this youth team because apparently they're dominating everything. And he was one of the players I just actually fell in love with. And I thought, wow, what an absolute talent. We had many talents, but what an absolute talent. Like he stuck out to me as a player. And I thought, my God, I can't wait to see us give him a chance. And when he came and when he started to break through under Sarri, I was really excited for him. And I couldn't wait to see what he could develop into as a player. And it's unfortunate. I think that injury fully pretty much changed his whole style of play. He doesn't have that burst of energy and quick turns that he used to have. And unfortunately, this impacted his game far too much for us to even find a way to actually utilize him still at our club. I think there are certain points in his career that I generally think he would have really benefited massively from a loan period, that he could have helped him establish himself a lot quicker.
But the problem, bro, was
of,
he needed a 120k per week contract at 17, which always
Yeah.
ruled out any loan moves because
yeah,
that meant either no loan club was going to pay him 120k. That meant we sent him on loan. We would have had to cover half, if not more, of that while he wasn't even here, and that's why he
Yeah.
never got a loan. So
Uh,
that's
it-
what happens when players are too greedy when they're too young. That's what happens when you have your family representing you at that kind of age, because all they want is, they want the best for you, but they want the best for you financially. Do you know what I mean? And in the end, that, as well as the injury, in my opinion, are the big reasons why it never worked out. I'm not sure if you agree with that, but 120k at 17 was mental, and it always
I
was.
think hindsight is always a beautiful thing, right? I think when you look back at certain situations, you can say if it had played otherwise, maybe things would have been really different. But you could also argue in the same breath, if he didn't take the 120k, would he ever make that kind of money again? Because you can see now he's moved down to Nottingham Forest and he's not going to necessarily be reaching those heights. Maybe not. And as far as we're concerned, because obviously we can see how it's impacted his game. But one of the things that I never really blame players on is using leverage to get the best possible contract. At the end of the day, any athlete of any sport, in my opinion, does the same thing, where you try to make the best out of situations to try and benefit yourself financially. Because once your career is over, maintaining that lifestyle is going to be next to impossible unless you have something else going on. So from that perspective, I don't look at him and I think, oh my God, how dare you get 120k? I just look at it as you did what you needed to do based on what you needed to get at that time and based on how highly you were touted. It's probably the best PR he had at that time, and it's the best contract he could have gotten in order to use that leverage. One thing I will say, however, is the loan aspect is something that both the club himself and the managers involved at the time should have definitely explored a lot sooner, because I think it would have definitely benefited him to be out there and playing game time, especially straight after his injury, rather than him being with us and having to try him in and out. And because we weren't willing to be patient with him, it never really got going for him. And that's where it's unfortunate, in my opinion, 1 year too late, where he's gone out on loan, because he had Dortmund on the table the prior window to suddenly he's ended up at Bayer Leverkusen the next year. And in my opinion, it's not the same type of level of clubs. And it would have been interesting just to see what would have happened. Regardless, I think for what he's done, I still appreciate it. He has shown me a lot of good moments, but also I feel very disappointed when I think about his career, because I do feel like he had a lot more to offer, and that injury really feels like the breaking point of his career. And I wish him nothing but the best at Nottingham Forest, and I hope he's able to reignite his career and get to a level where at least people get to see a bit of what the hell we were talking about back then.
Yeah, there you go. That's the last thing to bring up. I'll just quickly bring up his goodbye message that he posted. Obviously, he added a whole video to it as well. Wait, is it anywhere? Yeah, there you go. He added a goodbye video to it as well, which I'm not going to show now. But the message is quite nice, I guess. To the Blue Army, the time has come for me to bid Chelsea FC farewell. For the longest time, Chelsea has been my home. I spent the best part of my childhood, teenage years, and early manhood wearing a Chelsea shirt. My best memories will always be playing in front of you all at the bridge. I will embark on this new pathway, but before I do, I would like to take the opportunity to thank everyone that has been a part of my journey, and to everyone that has supported me so far. Until we meet again, Joe. I mean, for someone that's been here since he was like 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever, not the most heartfelt message, but obviously he's probably not really felt part of the club properly for a little while now. So I guess you understand it from that perspective as well. Another one that looked like he was leaving from the academy, but now isn't, is or looks like he won't. Obviously, there's still a few hours left of the transfer window here. Not in Germany, because the German transfer window shut at 5 p.m. UK time. But Trevor Chalobah won't be joining Bayern. Not 100% sure what the stumbling block was. Was it that they only ever wanted a loan with nothing, and we were not happy to accept that? Obviously, there was a few reports, Bayern are confident or whatever else. Never seemed to happen. And Nottingham Forest launched a bid of £25 million for him today, but he wasn't interested in that. So there you go. It looks like it's going to stay now. Do I mind that? No, especially with Bashi Humphries going out on loan now. I said it yesterday already that I think a team also... Watch the video he posted. Yeah, no, absolutely, HM. The video, yes, but the message, and we only read out the message now. I am of the opinion that also when you're not in Europe, you should have 5 centre-backs. Now, I'm aware, including Wesley Fofana, we have 6, but Wesley Fofana is out for basically the whole season, so it's 5. And I think you should have 5, especially when your right back is Reece James. You can never be sure how much he's going to be fit for. And yes, you have Malo Gusto, which is great. But if Reece James is out longer term, Malo Gusto can't play every single game. So you need some sort of backup. We know how Chalobah can play right back. So to me, I'm happy that he stays anyway. Now, will the value probably drop because he will get very little game time this season? Sure. But at the same time, the only real offer we got was £25 million. The other clubs only wanted him on loan, never offered anything big anyway. So I don't think we are losing out on any money here, because our valuation of him apparently, well, some said 50 million, some others said 35 million, some said 45 million. None of those were met. So at the end of the day, I'm probably quite happy that he's staying, but it seems a bit of a mess. Like, he clearly wanted to join Bayern, but they only wanted him on loan, but we didn't want to budge to that. But I'm glad, and I want to give a little bit of props, because I don't give a lot of props to the directorship this summer on other than certain signings. At least they didn't budge and they didn't fold and they didn't, crumble under that like pressure, because I don't want us to become that club where you're like, any club comes running and whatever that other club wants happens. Would they ask for more money when we try to sign a player? We pay more money. They try to pay less money or only get a loan when they try to get our players. We agree to it. We couldn't, that can't keep happening. So I'm happy that we stood firm. But yeah, I mean, Mo, I'll go to you first. What do you think? Chalobah staying? Are you happy about that? Do you think he should have left? But what do you make of the whole situation as well? Like, loan to Bayern, he wasn't interested in Forest. What do you make of it all?
And I'm glad we didn't send him out on loan. I think for me, the least amount that we can do for a player like this is if there's a permanent situation that can benefit both the player and ourselves, we need to kind of utilize those types of situations a lot better. And I'm just happy that it's not a loan. And the reason why I say that is because I still feel like the player is left in limbo. The club is left in limbo. Nobody wins in that situation. Whereas right now, if the squad, obviously, when it comes to injuries at the moment, touch wood, situation is not looking too goddamn healthy for us. No. He is versatile. He can play in multiple positions. For me, I feel rather safe with him being at our club than I do about sending him on loan. And if there's an opportunity to sell him for a significant amount of fee that is actually quite respectable, I still would actually respect the player's choice in that matter, because I do think he deserves first team football. I don't think he should be sitting on the bench. And the fact that Fofana is injured and the fact that, we've signed Disasi immediately kind of lets you know what you need to know about what the right on the world is for the player. And it feels like, to me at least, that Chalobah is pretty much on the way out. It's just that we couldn't find something that would facilitate what would benefit both the club and the player.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that, Dharmesh. Where do you stand on it? Happy that he's staying, sad that he's staying, kind of indifferent that he's staying? What do you think?
I'm kind of glad Chalobah's staying, actually, because I do think he can be useful for us, especially given we can't really trust Reece James with staying fit, as well as sort of Fofana as well. And I think he can really make that sort of backup right back his position right now when we come to sort of the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. So it's just one of them where I'm glad he's staying. I have rated Chalobah. I think he's always a good utility player for us, and I think you always need those kind of players who will sort of step in wherever, whenever, and always perform to that level. And I think he's done that most of the time for us. So, yeah, I hope he does stay in the future, but I can just see him going, to be honest, by the summer. If I'm being honest with you, man.
There you go.
I think it's more of a situation like he will definitely go, but it's just a matter of when, not if.
There you go. And positive Chelsea Academy news. 4 former Chelsea players starting for AC Milan. Ruben Loftus-Cheek won a penalty. Giroud scored it. Milan are now 1-0 up against Roma, while Lukaku sat on the bench crying. So that is great news. Anything about that, I just find.
It's the Lukaku bit crying that got me.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. All right, let's get into this mess that is the Ian Maatsen situation that happened today. I mean, it is crazy. Let me just get all of the news up. I think this was the first one we got. My time, 4:12, 3 in the UK. Jacob Steinberg reported. That is actually not the first one. I wanted the other one, which was 2 minutes earlier from Matt Law. It said, breaking, Ian Maatsen is leaving on loan to Burnley with an obligation of 31.5 million plus add-ons, although I thought it was including add-ons, but whatever it may be. Then the next you saw it on screen already, Jacob Steinberg then confirmed that we had agreed said deal, but Ian Maatsen is reluctant to leave. Then we take it another step further. From Nizar Kinsella, that Chelsea have told Ian Maatsen, if he isn't leaving, he must sign a new deal if he is to stay. He's reluctant to go to Burnley. Now, there's still uncertain information about how... I do respect Jose, to be honest, but, he signed Lukaku. The other signed Ruben Loftus-Cheek, so you know who I'm going to prefer. Sorry, I completely lost my train of thought now. The only undecisive thing or uncertain thing is that no one seems to really know how much of a contract Maatsen still has left, because everybody was talking about a year, which is why it made sense to me, like either sell him now or make him sign a new contract. But why would there be a loan with obligation if his contract is out at the end of this year? Because then Burnley would basically be paying 30 million for a player that's then out of contract. I don't really know how that would work. But there has also been, someone linked me the announcement when Maatsen last signed a new contract. It was like keeping him until the club at least until 2024. So I don't know if that's at least until 2024 because he could have extended, or if that meant we had an option that potentially the club would take now in a scenario of a loan. I don't know. Like Luke says here, as a 1 year and an option to extend, I think that would be the most, the thing that makes most sense in my opinion. But then we top that one off. We got the information that this Ian Maatsen deal is only happening because the Cucurella deal fell through, and but at the same time, Matt Law still said that Ian Maatsen could still choose to stay. Then Matt Law said Ian Maatsen, as of right now, at the time, which was only half an hour after the first bit of reporting, Ian Maatsen is expected to stay as of right now because he essentially said no to Burnley. And then we had a report from Miguel Delaney from The Independent, a little bit less reputable and a little bit less reliable, but still, they said Chelsea are currently trying to convince Ian Maatsen to join Burnley, that was the very latest point where I got a bit upset and fed up with it, because I'm like, excuse yourself, can you stop forcing academy players out of the club? If they want to leave, like Lewis Hall, fair enough. It's not nice, but it has to happen sometimes. But excuse yourself. Stop forcing players out, because, and we'll talk about this in more length in a second, but what I really hate is this narrative that people are trying to come out with, saying, oh yeah, this is what happens when you spend a lot of money in the transfer window. We signed Caicedo, we signed Enzo 6 months ago, we signed a lot of other expensive players. I'm like, yeah, but no, this has nothing to do with Maatsen. This is not about money, because as you can see on screen, or as you saw before that, the reason why the Ian Maatsen deal even happened is because the Cucurella deal fell through. Cucurella didn't give us any money. He gave us 5 million on a loan fee, and they would have sent him back in January. So clearly money isn't the reason why we need Maatsen to go, because otherwise we wouldn't have been happy to keep him when Cucurella left, because then we were like, no, well, we need to sell someone, especially from the academy, for profit. But that wasn't the case, was it? So you can't just say, oh, this is because we need money. No, it isn't. This is just the club being a little bit overwhelmed by having too many left backs and not being able to do anything with Cucurella, who they had to sign for 60 million last year for absolutely no apparent reason. But then we top it off by... apparently, Maatsen had a conversation with Vincent Kompany, who had a very good relationship with, or has a very good relationship with, from his loan there last season, and basically explained to him why he's reluctant to move. I'm not really sure what the reasons are. Obviously, you could argue Kompany is obviously a very young manager. How much longer is he staying at Burnley for? If Maatsen goes there permanently, what happens after? Burnley's, historically more known to be like a very defensive team, very... not exactly proactive. Is that somewhere he wants to be after potentially Kompany leaves? I don't know. But the thing that we don't know, and I'll finally get Mo and Dams on this conversation as well, I just try to line everything up so everybody knows what they potentially missed today. Is Maatsen reluctant to go to Burnley because he wants to leave Chelsea on a free? Is he reluctant to go to Burnley because he doesn't like to go back to Burnley? Is he reluctant to leave because he actually wants to stay at Chelsea? I don't know why, but I this is another one that would annoy me if we just make this happen, because it's like, why are we agreeing deals for players that don't want to go? Like, don't do that. Why? It's just like, I mean, we did that for Gallagher as well. Like, we accepted that £45 million offer from Everton last January. It was Gallagher that said no. So, like, can we stop doing this? Like, accept every offer basically we get for academy players, and then like, oh, the academy players don't want to leave, and then they stay. Do you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't exactly build a great foundation if they do end up staying long term. But yeah, I don't know what to make of this Maatsen situation, because, well, currently it's Levi Colwill playing left back. Then you also have Ben Chilwell. Then you also have Michael Cucurella. But clearly not Poch and not the club, particularly Ray Cucurella. And, I mean, can his value really drop more than it has so far, whether he plays all season or not? I don't think so, I'll be perfectly honest. So then just have Maatsen. But especially now, while we're playing left backs on the wing in Ben Chilwell, keeping Maatsen is the only thing that makes sense. We'll get to Mudryk later on when we talk about Forest, but especially if Mudryk has a few problems with being 100% fit and stuff, and you're kind of struggling for your left wingers, because, yeah, you have Sterling, but he's kind of made the right side his own now. Then you have Madueke and you have Cole Palmer, who's a 10 or on the right. So none of them on the left. So surely Maatsen needs to be here, if anything. But, yeah, obviously what Johnny says is essentially it. Power play from the club, either sign a new contract or leave this window. Smart from our board, and I agree with the approach. On the one hand, yes. On the other hand, no, because it's a bit late for this. Do you know what I mean, Johnny? Because, like, if he says no to the move now, we can't force it. But then the transfer window is shut. And if he then hasn't signed a new contract, then he has all the leverage again. Do you know what I mean? So doing this makes sense if you did it 2 weeks ago. Now it's a bit late. But where do you stand on all of this, Dharmesh? Try to, as you obviously said earlier, you couldn't keep up with everything that happened today. You've kind of been caught up with everything now. Where do you stand on it? The club agreeing a deal with a club, even though the player doesn't want to, then the club player saying no. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, it's a mess, bro, because on one hand, yeah, like you said, the club are agreeing a fee for Ian Maatsen, but at the same time, they're saying don't sign the deal then. So it's like, yeah, it's just proper strange, to be honest with you. But yeah, like, it's a weird one with Maatsen, because I think with the formation that we're playing right now, with obviously Ben Chilwell on the wing, I think that's more of a short-term thing. I really don't see that being a long-term thing. I think Poch is low-key trying to sort of experiment with the players that he's got, and trying to sort of mold in a set system, and then eventually we'll play Chilwell at left back, and then either drop Dizazi or Colwell, whoever which one. But yeah, it's a really strange one with this Maatsen situation, because come end of the season, like, is he, like, I don't know if he'll get much game time for us. Like, even in the cup games, will he actually play for us if he's going to play that sort of left wing role where you've got Mudryk, you've got Sterling, you've got Madueke there, you've got Cole Palmer, who can obviously play in those sort of positions as well. Then obviously we saw a bit of Nicholas Jackson play on the left as well when he came on against Wimbledon. So yeah, it's a weird one, but I've said, like, if it was a like for like sort of left back, if we did end up selling it, then I wouldn't be too against it. But as long as the replacement that we bring in is pushing or as good as Chilwell or better than Chilwell, Because let's be real, like Cucurella, I don't think is going to stay here long time with us. Like I think we'll eventually let him go, whether that's a loan or if we sell him for about maybe 10 to 20 million, possibly. And I think I said like I wouldn't mind getting someone like Rico Henry and from Brentford, who I think is quality left back. I think he's probably one of the most sort of informed left backs over the past few seasons. I think he'll be sort of great competition for Ben Chilwell. I think he could potentially even be better than Chilwell. So yeah, I think that's what I'd sort of do. It's more similar to Gallagher, where I'd sort of see to the end of the season, keep him for now, and then yeah, if we can sell him, then all by means sell him, and then that way you can get some game time as well. But I find it weird how he's saying no to Burnley. Maybe it's the fact that he loves Chelsea so much he wants to be here, or if he's comfortable. But yeah, I don't know. It's a proper weird one, man.
Yeah, it is a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Like, I'll be perfectly honest. I have never watched a full game of Ian Maatsen playing left back because I've seen a few highlights of when he was at Burnley and out on loan. Where was he before that? Coventry? Bristol?
Yeah,
Coventry.
Coventry. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, Coventry.
I've watched a few highlight clips and, when he scored goals, got assists and stuff, I've seen that, but not full games. And at Chelsea, he's not played a full game at left back. So, number one, I'm like, how good of an actual left back is he? Is he maybe more of something else? Could he, as his career progresses, become more of an attacker than a fullback? I don't know. But also, I can't really sit here and say, is he better than Rico Henry? Like, obviously, Darm's touched on, or other players. I don't know. I've not seen him play at left back. So, what can I say? But I do know that he's a good footballer because I've seen him play in other positions and he's clearly technically good. He understands space on a football pitch. He understands positioning on a football pitch. We need to work on his right foot to make that a bit more usable. But otherwise, why would you sell two academy left backs in the same summer? Like, that would just be stupid to me. That's how I see it. But Mo, thoughts? This Ian Maatsen saga, this Ian Maatsen drama? What do you reckon?
Yeah, this is the one that caused me the most stress today. I can't lie. And I'll be honest, I think it's such a sticky situation, whatever way you want to look at it, because number one, I had no idea that he was potentially on his last year of his contract. I also had no idea, and just give me 2 seconds, sorry.
Oh, good. I'll keep it moving for the time being, and we'll get back to more on this topic in just a second's time. In the meantime, I guess I'll bring up a smaller topic, which I guess is somewhat also interesting. Reported by Lucas Musetti, even though Nizar said earlier, if now Chalobah isn't going out on loan internationally, maybe David Washington could still go to Strasbourg. I have no idea who these reporters are, but Pice posted them, so I have to give them some sort of credibility. Otherwise, Pice wouldn't post them. He's staying at Chelsea this window. Interesting. Is that in reaction to Burstow leaving? Wouldn't surprise me. I think it would make sense in that, especially while Nkunku is also injured. Again, another one who I've obviously never seen play, so I don't know. But I guess give him a chance, might as well. But yeah, I don't really need much of your thoughts on that, so I'll take it back to Ian Maatsen. Mo, continue your point.
Yeah, and I think with Ian Maatsen, I had no idea that his contract was actually just got a year remaining. I've heard people say that he's potentially got an option for another year. And on top of that, which I'm not entirely sure because there's nothing that confirms that information to us. So we're a bit of in a gray area just because of that. I think from that perspective, it makes sense that the club this whole time have been trying to get him to sign a new contract. One, potentially, we don't know if it was still to sell him because Lewis Hall, we saw what happened with that. But also, it would have at least given a bit more clarity on the situation as to, are we then forcing him to leave, or is the situation just a very sticky situation where the club is now looking at it like, hey, we may not get this opportunity again. This is the best offer we've gotten, along with a guaranteed obligation to buy. We will need to consider our books. Personally, for me, I look at it and I think our situation with Cucurella and Chilwell just being so uncertain at the moment doesn't really sit well with me selling someone like Maatsen on top of already having sold Lewis Hall. It just doesn't make any sense, especially if we're going to then end up next window having to spend money again because we don't actually know what's going on. And I personally am quite happy if he stays. I'd like to see what that then evolves into because we still need to get him to sign a new contract. So I do think the club are doing the right thing by trying to get him to sign that. The second thing on hand then is it's on Pochettino, man. I think Pochettino needs to give the kid a lot more game time than what we're currently seeing. But then having no European football makes it really tough. And I would like to see him at fullback or wingback, because then at least it will make us understand how useful he can be in those areas. Personally, I feel quite optimistic about him as someone that's watched him at Coventry and being really impressed with him. But I thought even Burnley, he stepped up a whole other level. And I thought, my God, okay, we actually have a player here that we really need to give him a chance. And if this ends up with us giving him a chance and us getting him to sign that new contract, I'll be extremely happy for it.
There you go. There you go. Not really much I have to add. Fair play. I'm in full agreement, really. But we have a bit of an update, a bit of a confirmation on the Conor Gallagher situation from Nizar Kinsella, who said Tottenham explored a move for Conor Gallagher on deadline day, but it was pending a Pierre-Emile Højbjerg move away, which is now also off. Chelsea weren't actively looking, but may have cashed in at a previously mentioned £50 million asking price. Pochettino is a fan of Gallagher, as I said below. Conor Gallagher's potential move to Tottenham is now off, which I think is great news. Again, it's just confirmation of what we saw earlier. And yeah, it smells a bit of slight club briefing. I weren't actively looking on it, but are you sure? Because setting that kind of deadline for a player that started 4 games in a row and the manager says, I don't want to sell, you shouldn't even set an asking price. You should say, well, come with something and then we'll talk to you. Don't set an asking price. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, what is that? Other clubs don't set asking prices for us. They always mug us off and fleece us left, right, and center. So, yeah, there you go. I think in terms of news, for the time being, this is it. So we will now go to talking about Nottingham Forest. Dums, you said a couple of minutes ago that you'd leave in 15, 20 minutes. So as we're now going to talk into a different topic, do you want to leave now or do you want to be here for the first 5 minutes of talking about Forest? Up to you, bro.
Yes, all right, I'll stay, man. Yeah.
All right, all good. Let's talk about Nottingham Forest then. I don't have a tweet ready for this, but Mykhailo Mudryk is back in training. He's been taken off the injury list by Chelsea. Whether that means he's fit enough to start the game, I very much doubt it. I think he's probably going to be on the bench. Obviously, even if he was fully fit, chances are Poch wouldn't start him at the moment. But what was interesting, though, and I'm not sure if everybody heard that or saw the quotes, Poch was when talking about Mudryk, it was actually that it's been kind of difficult with Mudryk in terms of fitness. Because obviously he got injured just before the Under-21s Euros, where he went to with Ukraine, then only played like a couple of games for them, just as he kind of got over an injury. And then even though he was here for all of preseason, it was kind of on and off a little bit with like small little niggles, couldn't train 100%. And that was probably then also now in hindsight, we didn't know it at the time, but now in hindsight, probably why certain preseason games he started, others he was all of a sudden on the bench and everyone was a bit like confused why he was also not used as a sub then in those preseason games. Makes sense now. It surprises me because he hasn't really looked particularly like he had any concerning injury record before joining us. One of the few that we signed that didn't. But I do find it weird because we literally see either his trainer or him post something from the gym with ridiculous weights almost every day. And now I'm hearing he has problems being fit all the time. So now I'm a little bit confused. I'm like, maybe you should stop it with the weights then. But I don't know, right? So I'm purely speculating. But, you know, I find that a bit odd. But hey, you know, Poch said we're now going to work to make sure he stays fit longer term, can get his confidence then, and then we'll see his real talent because Poch said he's a very talented player. So yeah. In terms of injury news,
McDonald's he's been having in it.
I have no idea, bro. It's weird.
Could be that, man.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. But yeah, he's back. No one else is back of the other guys that are injured. Broja and someone else have returned to like partial team training. I forgot who the other one was.
Was it? Badiashile was already back.
Badiashile, exactly. Broja and Badiashile, them to return to partial team training, whatever that means. But yeah, here we are. But yeah, let's talk about Forest tomorrow, shall we? Obviously, they lost Brennan Johnson. They have re-signed a few players. They're signing Origi. They're signing Hudson-Odoi. They're signing 10,000 midfielders, which makes me more and more doubt whether sending Andre Santos on loan there was a good idea in the slightest. No. Frankie Bands, it's just, I got given this ring. It's a Chelsea ring. I'm sure I've explained this here before. But yeah, it has a Chelsea badge in it. You probably can't see it. But yeah, my brother got me this for Christmas. And the only thing it fits on is the ring finger. So, you know, that's it. I'm not married. But yeah, there you go. But yeah, will Andre Santos play at Forest? Well, not tomorrow. We'll see. But big question, how do we line up tomorrow? And Dams, Mo, I'll ask you both. I'll start with you, Dams. How do you think we should line up? How do you see it? Because obviously Chilwell left wing, Colwell left back was what we've done in all the league games. But then against Wimbledon, we played a normal 4-2-3-1. But maybe we only did that because we didn't play Colwell at left back and because we didn't play Chilwell on the wing. So what do you think? Because, I mean, Philip Specht says here, start Noni. Obviously, in general, I'd be in 1,000% agreement. But at the same time, I'm like, well, he hadn't started until Wednesday. Is he really fit to start Wednesday and Saturday back to back? I would probably have my doubts over that, and I'd probably expect him to come off the bench for hopefully half an hour. Because if you weren't fit, didn't do preseason, can you start 2 games in a row? I'm not sure you can. But
I don't think so. No.
Before we get to Noni, though, formation. What do you think we should go with? And that's what I'm going to put on screen, Dams. But also, what do you think Poch will go with?
Yeah, what you got on screen is perfect for what, like, sort of I do as well. But we all know, like, Poch is going to sort of play with that hybrid formation of the wing backs as well. So, yeah, I'd stick with what you got on screen, bro.
Fair dues, Mo. Do you see that as well? Expecting Poch to do the same as the last games, but you would do this?
Yep. Unfortunately, man, I'm praying that we're wrong and he surprises us by giving us 4 at the back officially. But I remain doubtful. I'm not gonna lie. I was so confident against West Ham that he was gonna do that, and then he didn't. So Forest, because
now he takes another step further. I mean, he didn't do it against Luton, so why is that? Would anyone expect it to do it against?
That too. Forest? Yeah, I forget that we played Luton as well. Freaking hell. And
actually, interesting. Let me clutch in on that point because Poch was in the press conference today. Also asked about Levi Colwell. Obviously, talking about him, and he's saying what a great player is, blah blah blah. But also said that he can play multiple positions, and he said, as we've seen this season, also at left back. So in Poch's mind, he's still very adamant that we are playing a back 4. Just with Colwell at left back. I know a lot of the fan base just refuse to accept that that's what's happening. But yeah, Poch seems very adamant that Colwell is just playing left back. So
it's such a missed opportunity, man. It's such a missed opportunity. I don't know why he does it because I think,
especially
when you look at the passing options,
do you know what I mean? Like if Fofana was fit, I'm like, okay, fair enough. You're trying to put all your good players in. Fair enough. But it's not like Disasi's been any good anyway. Do you know what I mean?
I think he's probably trying to get Disasi comfortable with playing in this league, which I get it. I think minutes is definitely going to be the thing that he needs to adapt to this league. And the sad part, however, is I do think we are limiting an aspect of Colwell's game that is so freaking wonderful, and that's his ball playing ability. And you put him all the way to the left side of this back. And honestly, I think his passing options are not as good as they can be. And I would like to see him be a bit more central rather than be all the way to the left. But again, Poch decides what happens at the end of the day. I don't know if I agree with him on this one.
There you go. Johnny, I'm not sure if you hadn't joined us yet, but yeah, we already had that up on screen. João Felix to Barcelona on loan is a here we go. But yeah, I agree with you, Mo, and I see the point of Disasi. I think it's more to do with just a lack of attacking options, a lack of fit attacking options. I think if Nkunku was fit, I think if Mudryk was fully fit, I think if Sterling and Madueke were fit, I think we would probably already be playing a normal 4-2-3-1 all the time. But we don't have them fit. And like I touched on, I don't expect Noni to start tomorrow. I think he will come off the bench and probably then start regularly from after the international break. But I think at the time, I'm unfortunately still expecting what Poch has been doing recently. The only problem I have now, guys, is yes, we said we want to play this and a clear one, and we don't really want Levi Colwell at left back. But before we do the whole back 4, can we just talk and think about if we don't want to play Chile on the wing? Who are we playing on the wing? Because we're expecting Mudryk to not be fit to start. At least me and Mo hasn't fully agreed yet. But like I say, he hasn't done preseason. He has only played 10 minutes against West Ham. Otherwise, he hasn't featured at all until he played 80 minutes against Wimbledon on Wednesday. Is he really going to be fit to start again? I doubt it. So then you have Mudryk not available. You have Madueke not available. If you're not playing Chile on the wing, who are you playing on the wing? And I'll ask you that first, Mo. Like, is it Maatsen? Or the more you hear it, the more you're like, maybe we have to do what Poch has been doing?
I think what Poch is doing at the moment seems to make sense in the short term. And in the long term, I think, 100%. I want to see my wingers be on those positions out wide. And
I mean,
I
could
think
Cole
the fact
Palmer start? I doubt it, but
see, that's where my doubt is, because to me, I'm like, then he didn't start Caicedo in his first game as well. Like, do you see what I mean? Like, it wouldn't make necessarily any sense to me. But maybe Cole Palmer has had a good preseason and he's fit enough and he's seen him in training. I don't know. But I do think what we need to be doing in these situations is, if we're not building towards us using our wingers out wide, then I don't know what to think of it, because Chilwell cannot be the long-term guy on that wing. I just can't stand it. I feel like his final third decision making is not good enough. If his output was like worth it and he was scoring goals, then I could understand. But he's not even doing what Alonso used to guarantee, as in being in those areas. So from that perspective alone, I'm like, this better be just a short-term thing. I want the long-term thing to be our wingers playing in that area. Noni Madueke, I thought, had a great showing, and I don't know. I feel hesitant with him because his past injuries tend to be with hamstring. I don't really want to expose him whilst he's still not fit and not had the full preseason with us, in putting him back-to-back games where he plays a majority of minutes. So I don't really want to put him in that position, but I would definitely want to see him in this game. We also can't forget Nottingham Forest are a freaking physical side themselves, and they're going to look to sit deep and counter us. So if we keep those things in mind, we really need runners in behind. We really need players that are good at keeping the ball and playing in between the lines. So I don't know. I feel like the team kind of is going to be far more similar to what we've seen in the first 3 Premier League games than we would like. Let's put it that way.
I think what we've gathered is, and I'll get to you with it now, Dams, we have 2 options. Either you play Chile on the wing or you play Maatsen on the wing. Who else do we have? Now, Johnny makes a fair point that Madueke said that Sterling likes playing on the left. Absolutely. But if no other right winger is available, why take Sterling away from the position he's been really good in the last 3 games, right? So why change that? So, Dams, now that we've thought about that and spoke about it, as much as we don't want Coburn at left back and we don't want Chilwell on the wing, if there's no other option, what do? Do you stick with Chile or do you go with Maatsen?
Well, I've got a different option that no one's mentioned. I like that. I'd probably be inclined to stick Jackson on the wing, bro, because I think
who plays
he
up
can
front
play there. No, as in if we had to pick, I'd probably stick Jackson on the left, and then.
No, I get you, but then who plays striker if Jackson isn't up front? Because Burstow is not gone, and Broja ain't fit yet.
Yeah, that's the problem, bro. Like, if we had like a backup striker, or if we had someone who was fit at least, then we could at least stick him there for a game. But I honestly think Jackson's not the worst idea at left wing. I think he can play there. I think he's very capable.
No, I agree that he can, but if you don't have another striker, you need to keep Jackson a striker. Right?
Yeah, that's the only thing. But if it was between the two, then I'd probably stick with Chilwell, to be honest with you, bro. I mean, yeah.
I mean, I guess with Maatsen, it's a bit uncertain. Is he now leaving? He could leave at deadline. So, yeah, I mean, there's still
Chilwell's
some
our
room
captain as well, so
for things to happen. So, essentially, what we are now discussing is we're going to pick the exact team that Poch picked for the last 3 games in a row anyway, essentially, right? So then we have, well, no, actually only against Luton, because that's only when Caicedo started. And you have kind of Gallagher as an official 10, but it's kind of a bit one of those, I guess. What ends on the left, on the right? I think it was more like that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Enzo was higher than Gallagher last game, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And then you had Chilwell there, Sterling there, and Jackson up front. Now, at least we'll have a few more options off the bench, because obviously Madueke is now more of a valid option. I would still hope and expect Pice tweet. What was he tweeted? All right, I'll bring it up now. And then we'll just discuss it together. If it loads.
Oh, wow. Tottenham approach Chelsea for Chalobah. Wow.
Yep, exactly.
Really?
But it's kind of a double tweet. Pice didn't really help myself with doing 2 separate tweets, so I'm going to just zoom in on the notifications. Exclusive from Fabrizio Romano. Chelsea and Spurs in discussions talked about Trevor Chalobah. They are looking for an opportunity centre back if they sell one. Chelsea at the moment say no to Chalobah to Spurs. So I personally don't see this happening. This is, again, Spurs need to wait to sell one, and only then could they go. It's already 8:30. Deadline is at 11. Is this really still going to happen? Honestly, guys, I can't see this at this point anymore. But who knows, right? Who knows? But I'll take it back to the lineup screen. Like I say, I'd hope Cole Palmer makes an appearance from the bench if he's going to be there. And I expect he was in training today, so why wouldn't he? He seems to be fit. And Madueke as well. But Mo, it's exactly the same team that played against Luton. I guess we won the game 3-0, but it's not really what we want to see. And it's a bit frustrating with all the players that we've signed. We've not really signed anyone to play left wing instead of Chilwell. Because Palmer isn't going to be a left wing instead of Chilwell either. Now, obviously, Sterling could move over and then Palmer or Madueke could be on the right. I'm aware.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still not ideal now, is it?
No. I think that's where we just kind of have to take this lineup as what it is for now. But the next game week that we have, I think we're going to see a much changed sort of lineup in that sense, because yeah, man, it's frustrating because you can see when we do attack, we are lacking just that one extra player in the attack that can make that right final decision that just enables us to either open up a defense, hold on to the play, be creative, take shots, etc. Like there's just certain elements that you're looking for, and I'm like, I wish we had one extra player because we're clearly dominating. We clearly would be able to get something done here. And I don't like the fact that sometimes, when we do this thing where we wait to concede or we wait when we have to chase the game and then we throw in the plays that we should have done from the beginning. I don't know, man. I'm just tired of that. I'd rather do that from the beginning and actually make teams freaking give up in the beginning of a game and make them feel like, oh my God, we cannot survive this.
You know what? Just to make it a bit interesting, I will actually disagree with Dums, and I will not play Maatsen center back. Don't worry, I'm not crazy. But I was
going to say, bro.
I got confused for a minute. Then I was like, why are they both on the pitch together? Then realized what you were trying to do.
I play this, because I just don't think Chile doesn't look comfortable in this position that he's playing. I know what you touched on. I can't remember which one of you said it in terms of he's not even bringing what Marcos Alonso did. But the one thing that I think not enough people are really recognizing is you're even as an attacking fullback, your positions and the spaces that you have if you play and start as a winger compared to if you're kind of arriving late as the fullback is not the same. And that like Chile has got himself in positions and should have scored a couple of goals against Luton, was it? Absolutely, he should have done. Maybe even against West Ham. I can't remember now. But I would don't do this. I've changed my mind just to make it a bit more interesting, just to change it up a little bit. I take Dizazi out. I don't think he's been that good. He also started against Wimbledon, so it wouldn't exactly be huge if he got benched for one game. It's Forest at home. I know we didn't do against Luton, and this is not my predicted 11. This is just what I would do. But, I mean, Mo, before I bring Dams in one more time, would you be against this? Like, obviously, I understand the whole Maatsen could leave situation, but he said no. So, like, he wants to be here. So why wouldn't we use him rather than playing Chilwell up front again or on the wing again?
My worry with this is that there's just the height issue is my worry. I worry about set pieces when it comes to teams like Nottingham Forest. And Maatsen being the height he is, I'm like, I don't know if it makes it any better, but like Disasi gave me that comfortability from the back that, okay, cool, we've got 3 centre backs.
But did he? Do you remember the West Ham game?
I mean, he wasn't with the guy. It was Conor Gallagher.
No, he wasn't. But what I'm trying to say is we still conceded from a set piece, whether he was there or not.
We did, but during the normal play, honestly speaking, he makes me far more comfortable dealing with like situations where there's long balls involved and stuff like that. And if there's physicality required, I feel like he's a no-nonsense defender in that perspective. He doesn't play about. I think
Koval is really good in the air, It's just because he's been playing at left back, we've not really seen it.
Yeah.
So I get your point, but I'm like, we're playing Forest at home, man. Like, we're not Jose anymore, where like we adapt everything.
I agree.
We're playing Forest, Even if they score one with a header, let's score 4 on our side, shall we?
If we're gonna do this, in my opinion, Cole Palmer, get in that right, Sterling, move to the left. Like, that's how I would go about things.
Okay.
I would rather do that. It sounds crazy because then I'm going against Maatsen, who I actually want to get minutes. but then I want an attacking player to be in those attacking positions. And yeah, if I'm honest, if it was up to me, if he wasn't our captain right now, and Chilwell would be holding bench right now. But hey, it is what it is.
Fair play. Dams, I've put a few different options on screen now. Maatsen on the wing. Now we've put Palmer on the wing. What would you like to go with? Or would you just want the Chile on the wing, Colwell left back?
No, I like what's on screen, to be fair. Obviously, if Mudrik's fit, then obviously we put Mudrik on the wing. I think I don't think any of us would sort of argue if Mudrik was fully fit. And we know that he's not going to play tomorrow, or at least come off the bench. He'll probably come off the bench.
Hopefully.
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I think what's on screen's ideal to be honest. But I don't know. I disagree with what you're saying about Disasi, man. I think he's been... especially against Wimbledon, I thought he was one of our best players, man. Especially second half.
It's Wimbledon. It's a League Two team. I'm
That's
not going to
true.
praise a centre back for a League Two team. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Obviously, there's context behind it as well. But
he's had a howler in every single Premier League game so far.
Yeah, I'll agree. Against Luton last week, I thought he was quite poor against Luton last week. But fair play to him for turning up second half. I know.
Chelsea just in it.
Yeah. And then against that 1 year as well, man. That guy is a beast, man. Honestly, he's on.
But his biggest attribute is also pace, and Disasi struggles for that too. So so does Thiago Silva, of course. So that doesn't.
Yeah, I think come to agreement that Colwell has to start then in that case, then regardless of what sort, if he's playing left back or at centre back, because he is quick. He is really quick as well. That's one thing I learned about Colwell as well. Like, he is quite rapid.
Absolutely. He absolutely is. I mean, Mitch says starting Palmer at right wing over Madueke after 1 day of training is crazy, especially after Madueke just dropped the man of the match performance. And I agree with that, obviously. I don't want to necessarily start Palmer over Madueke. It's just like Madueke has such a bad injury record over his career that I'm like, no, you're not playing one game after missing preseason and not playing in the other Prem games other than a 10-minute cameo and not used in the most recent Prem game, by the way. I'm not throwing you in back-to-back starts because not with his injury record. I just don't think that's very smart. But yeah, if we're going to take it back to what it is most likely going to be, I guess I'm going to replace good old Disasi or good old Palmer with Disasi again. Move Sterling over there. Move Chilwell up here. Colwell, our prime left back. Don't you love to see it? I mean, I know Pep's doing it, but come on now. Oh no, Gusto stays here, and Disasi comes into centre back. This is. Let's be honest. This is what it's going to be today. There's not even much of a question. It will be this. I mean, yeah, it will be this. I think, boys, it's about time we can round this one out. There's not that much to say on Forest with the lack of available players we have. We can't have too many crazy discussions about the team. So I'm going to finish it off with a score prediction from you, please, boys. Dams, I'll start with you. What do you reckon?
See, I actually like Nottingham Forest are going to be quite good this season. I think with the players that they signed and experience they've gotten as well. I think they'll surprise a lot of teams this season. But I see us winning 3-1 tomorrow.
Okay, nice. I'll take it.
3-1
I'll take it. Mo, what about you?
I'm gonna be a bit conservative on this one and say 2-1.
Okay.
And I don't know, man. I feel like that striker of theirs, he's got a knack for just
really
scoring
good.
in the. I don't know how he does it, but he's just got a knack for it, and he seems like he just does it game after game. They've had 2 losses and have had 1 win, if I'm correct, and they seem to start games well, but are very bad after things get really tough. So if we're able to withstand whatever their good period of moment is in that game, I think we'll be able to destabilize them and actually get the win. Knowing us, the question is, can we finish our chances? And at the moment, 2 goals is as good as it gets for me, man. I'm going to say 2-1 Chelsea.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. So far, they've lost 2-1 at Arsenal. They've beat Sheffield United 2-1, but, they lost 3-2 away at Man United, but they were 2-0 up after 4 minutes and still bottled it. And then in the League Cup, they were beaten 1-0 by Burnley. So in all their league games, they've scored, because I was going to say 2-0, but now I've kind of paid more attention to that. 4 goals in 3 games. But at the same time, it's like these kind of strikers for these kind of teams, like they have a little run, but those runs always end. Otherwise, they wouldn't play for Forest. You know what I mean? So I'm like, could it end? I'm going to stick with what I had in mind before. I'm going to say 2-0. I'm going to stick with 2-0. Andre Santos, own goal winner. Well, thankfully, Cranky Pants, Andre Santos is not allowed to play. Well, I say thankfully. not thankfully if he scores an own goal winner in your prediction, but he's not allowed to play tomorrow. But yeah, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1. Let's see which one it is. As long as we win, I'm going to be happy. Unfortunate, I hate these early international breaks. In October, November, I can usually deal with them. But in September, it's just too early. We will have had 4 Prem games and we already have an international break. It's just too much. It's just too much. But yeah, I think we're going to round it out here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you all. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. That would be massively appreciated. Hit the like button on your way out. There's just one click of a button and one that doesn't cost you any time or any money. So it really helps me out. Spread these streams and the channel out to more people. And that's how us content creators grow. So please do that on your way out. That'd be massively appreciated. Please do check out Mo and Dams on their Twitters down in the description below. You can see both of the handles on screen as well. If you can't bother to go down to the links, just copy them into Twitter or X as it is known nowadays, which I still find weird. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards. Let's see if there's any more deadline day craze in the last few hours. And we'll see you next time.